Hi, I'm Tim Hankwitz, Music Director of Orchestra Iowa.
And I'm Dennis Green from Jazz 88.3 KCCK.
Big year for you.
It is. We're approaching KCCK's 50th anniversary. But in the world of broadcasting, 50 years is a long time, especially to be doing the same thing, playing jazz.
If you were to take stock of the last 20 years or so, what has changed the most in terms of broadcasting?
Well, of course, the thing that's changed the most is the advent of streaming and online media. KCCK bucks this trend. We still are old school. Our DJs pick their music and play what they think our audience wants to hear.
And yet technology drives music. I think if you were to look at the history of American music in particular, from the radio to the phonograph, going way back there, technology has left its indelible mark on the way American music has progressed. Talk a little bit about the beginnings of the American sound in jazz.
Well, of course, jazz began in the South. Usually we think of jazz beginning in New Orleans, and then in the early part of the 20th century, the artists made their way up the Mississippi, turned right at Davenport, to head for Chicago and New York, and that was where a young trumpet player named Bix Beiderbecke first heard jazz. And he went to Chicago and then to New York, where he joined the Paul Whiteman Orchestra, who had just commissioned a piece from a young composer named George Gershwin.
Imagine, I've heard of that guy, which is actually a great segue into our opening concert for the season. The flagship piece is George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, which turns 100 this year. But it really is the synthesis of style between concert music, jazz, popular music, Broadway, and it took a genius like Gershwin to mash that all together. And in fact, I would argue, even throughout history, even up to today, fusion is actually the avenue to a new music and to the American sound. For example, another piece that we're performing on our opening concert is the Afro-American Symphony by William Grant Still, who was a contemporary of George Gershwin. And in fact, this symphony was the same year, in 1930, when George Gershwin wrote his Girl Crazy musical. And in Girl Crazy, there's a famous tune called I Got Rhythm. Now, people today associate that with Gershwin, but back in the 1920s, 1930s, if you're going to a cocktail party and William Grant Still happened to be playing the piano, his giveaway lick, that was his signature, was the I Got Rhythm lick.
That is a song that is traditionally one that a younger jazz musician is taught, because the changes in that are really easy to hear and easy to improvise from.
Right.
And in fact, there are many jazz songs who use what a jazz musician calls rhythm changes.
Right.
And you always think, oh, that has to do with the rhythm. Oh no, it is the changes from I Got Rhythm.
Yeah. Which is why we're having Damani Phillips and William Menefield, who they're going to be joining us in the second half of our program. We're bridging the future with the past, and this is again a sort of synthesis that is the backbone of American music. You know these individuals. You've covered them quite a lot. What are you most excited about their performance?
Well, it's always just such a pleasure to hear Damani Phillips and Will Menefield and the rest of the quartet play. They both had an exceptional year. William Menefield just had his brand new opera performed at the University of Iowa last spring. Damani Phillips is fresh off summer spent playing and teaching in the Pacific Rim. They've each released numerous recordings. They are musicians and teachers at the absolute top of their game. So it's very appropriate that they would get to be on the same stage with Orchestra Iowa, which is a collection of musicians also at the top of their game.
And you'll have two opportunities to hear us on Saturday the 14th at the Paramount Theater and on Sunday afternoon at the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts.
And there's even more jazz, too,
Yes.
because at a reception over at East Bank prior to the Paramount show, you have the Steve Grismore Trio, and then there'll be a little meet and greet with the Phillips Menefield Quartet at the Sunday concert.
Don't miss it, and we'll see you there.